love going to Broadway shows, but can't go now because Broadway's closed. Join tour guide Tim and Belasco too as they bring Broadway history to you. Grab your Broadway passport for what's in store on your Virtual Broadway Tour.
Built in 1907 as the Stuyvesant, this week's theater didn't bear the name of its original owner, David Belasco, until 1910. During construction in 1907, Belasco was already presenting his plays in a theater he leased from Oscar Hammerstein I. That theater on 42nd Street is still there today, the New Victory. It was a common occurrence in the early 1900s to rename a theater to reflect its current manager. So when Belasco leased that theater, he changed the name from the Theater Republic to the Belasco. In a dispute over programming, Belasco and Hammerstein bitterly parted ways on 42nd Street, and with no theater named after him, David Belasco renamed the Stuyvesant in 1910, ensuring his name would continue to shine on a Broadway marquee. Well, David Belasco is best known as a theater owner and producer. During his life, he took on the role of almost every occupation in show business. Yet, it was his antics outside of show business that garnered the most attention. Although Belasco was Jewish by birth, he took it upon himself to dress like a Catholic priest every day of his life, officially giving him the moniker, the Bishop of Broadway. And if you know anything about my company, you know our mascot, my French Bulldog, shares the same name, except he trades the clerical collar for a dog collar. David Belasco was a big believer in authentic realism on stage. At the New Victory Theater that he leased in 1902, he tore the entire theater apart just 2 years after it was built. In the auditorium, he added bumblebees to every wall, seat, and drape to signify the bee in Belasco. 31,566 bees total. And backstage, they dug into the solid schist rock for more stage space, with Belasco igniting some dynamite himself to help, and accidentally hitting an underground spring and flooding the entire theater. In the current Belasco Theater, he used state-of-the-art footlights and dimmer boards to manipulate lighting. The entire stage could even raise and lower to a scene shop in the basement where sets were built. If there was an oven on stage, Belasco demanded that the actors be able to actually cook so the live audience could smell the eggs from their seat. Even after Belasco's death in 1931, this level of realism was carried out in many other productions at the Belasco. Most notable was the play Dead End in 1935, which utilized the orchestra pit as the East River and filled it to the brim with water. The actors in the show even jumped off the edge of the stage into the river. Amazing. If you're anything like me, you save all of your playbills as a memento of any productions you've seen. For me, they are a small time capsule of that live theatrical moment. It appears David Belasco was just as sentimental as me when first building his theater in 1906. Upon the keystone, he placed a copper casket time capsule full of programs, photos, cards, souvenirs, and good luck pieces from friends and colleagues. In attendance at the ceremony were some of his star performers, David Warfield, Frances Starr, and Blanche Bates. Miss Bates spread the mortar over the casket and said aloud that she hoped Mr. Belasco would stick to all of them as this mortar would stick eternally to that stone. And now, over 100 years later, I'm happy to report that the foundation stone is still there, with the time capsule presumably still buried underneath. And as one final memory, a photo of the December 5th, 1906 ceremony captures the moment as a window into Broadway's beginnings for all of us who weren't there to see it firsthand. David Belasco loved his theater so much that he built a 10-room duplex apartment on the roof of the building in 1910 so that he could live there. The living room of the apartment is visible from 44th Street, complete with 3 stained glass windows. Add to the mix a domed yellow and blue stained glass ceiling, and the church-like feel is in full effect. Most prominent in the living room is a gigantic tiled fireplace, complete with tiles stolen from Alhambra Castle in Spain. And continuing in the religious vein, Belasco installed a church pew in his bedroom and an old confessional booth under the living room stairs. At the back of the apartment, there was even an elevator that would transport actresses from the alley downstairs directly to Belasco's apartment. In 1934, almost everything was removed and donated to different library collections around New York City. And in 1989, the apartment was officially deemed structurally unsound and has been condemned. But if you know the person with the key, you may just be able to get in like I did. I didn't see the ghost of David Belasco that is supposed to haunt the apartment, but I did make sure to take a selfie in his original bathroom mirror.
Hello! Happy Saturday Night on Broadway, or in quarantine, or whatever we're calling this. I hope you're all having a great Saturday night. For those who don't know me, my name is Tim Dolan. I'm the owner of Broadway Up Close Walking Tours in New York City. As part of our Virtual Broadway Tour Series, every week we're coming to you live with someone who has worked at the theater we're featuring that week. And this week, our guest is Jasmin Richardson from Getting the Band Back Together, Book of Mormon, and lots of other fancy shows that we'll talk about. For those, like I said, who don't know me, Tim Dolan, I'm an actor, owner of Broadway Up Close in New York City. For the last 10 years, our tours have under secrets, fun facts, ghost stories, history from the 41 Broadway theaters. I have an entire team, what I call my green team, are all actors and stage managers. And we are your guides and your eyes into the world of our weird theatrical Broadway lives. Last year, we opened our gift shop in the middle of Times Square, currently situated in front of the Minskoff Theater at Lion King, which has a 6-foot-tall Broadway sign of 150 marquee letters, light bulbs next to it. So you may have seen that for a perfect Instagram moment. And in addition to the 5 exterior tours that we've been doing for the last 10 years, this past fall, we opened our first interior tour, which is inside Broadway's oldest theater, the Hudson. For more info on that after our interview, so you're going to stay and watch, you can head to www.broadwayupclose.com. For those who have joined us before, you've heard me say I never envisioned a world of New York City without Broadway. I thought, it'll be a real quick shutdown, maybe like a couple months, like they initially said. That very quickly turned to not be a real thing. And so now we're looking at, I think, a full year shutdown. And so I was starting to miss connecting with theater goers, touring with guests on our sidewalk. And so I thought we'll bring it to you virtually, hence the Virtual Broadway Tour Series that we've been doing. So 41 theaters, 41 weeks, starting with the oldest and moving forward in time chronologically, which brings us to week 4. My favorite, if you know anything about me, you know, it's my favorite theater. It's the same name as my French Bulldog because I'm insane. And that is the Belasco. I hope you've enjoyed history, fun facts, and haunted apartment stories all week. How will tonight work? For tonight's series, we'll learn about Jasmin's theatrical journey and her time working on the Belasco. If you haven't already, in the comments box, give us a little wave and hello and tell us where you're watching from. If you have any questions for Jasmin or me along the way, drop it in the comments. And for those that are joining us live, hi, comment and follow along and let us know how your Saturday night is going. Before I bring Jasmin in, normally I would just say, let's do it. Let's go. I have to tell you a very quick story of the first time I ever I guess, came in contact with Jasmin. She knows this story because the prom opening night, I walked up to her. I was like, I have to tell you this story. Years ago, I worked for a company that I had done a show with called Broward Stage Door in Florida, which RIP is no longer a thing. And I was a reader for their auditions, and I run their auditions. The reader is the person who interacts with the person auditioning and helps get him in and out of the room and whatever. And Jasmin came in, and I'll never forget it. She sang Don Juan from Smokey Joe's Cafe, and she finished like a 16-bar cut, which if you don't know is like 30 seconds. I did finished, and we were like, okay. And she walked out. And the director, Dan, looked at me and I looked at him and I was like, she's a star, right? That's like the craziest thing that's ever happened in 30 seconds in her life. And he was like, all my hairs are standing up. That girl's destined for stardom. And needless to say, she booked it and has booked probably every show that she's ever auditioned for ever, which we'll talk about. And so I feel like I need to tell you, you may not know her name yet. If you don't, no shame on you, because it'll only be a matter of time before we see her name in lights on a marquee. So without further ado, I've built her up, Jasmin. Don't ruin this for me. This is Jasmin Richardson, Broadway's Jasmin Richardson. Say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
That was such a great intro. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tim. Sorry. I was thinking about Dan. I was sorry about Dan.
You're
So
like,
I'm
who are
sorry.
you? What's happening? It's going well. Great. Yeah, it's I have to say that first interaction, that first meeting is not how you often meet people. But
Not at all.
and then I saw you at the prom opening night. And I was like,
Yes.
I have to say something to you. I'm going to sound weird and insane, but I'm some little weird white kid who saw you in audition a million years ago and has kind of watched you from afar. So, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for spending your Saturday night. So let's start and tell us all where you're from, maybe a first exposure to theater, where you grew up, where you went to college, first shows in New York City. Give us kind of like, walk us through a day in the life of the early years of Jasmin Richardson.
Absolutely. I grew up in Houston, Texas. I am born in native of Houston, Texas, which is like Beyonce land. So that's like a thing.
Great.
But my mom was actually an actress. And so I always went to see shows when I was a little girl. I didn't always remember what was going on or was like actively understanding what was happening on stage, but
Sure.
I'd always been to the theater. So it was kind of like a normal thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I got into theater because of a teacher. I auditioned for like a talent show and she said, "Oh, you can convey a song really well. I think you'd be great in a theater show or whatever." And so I auditioned and got into that, and she kind of nurtured that because my mom, being an actor, didn't want me to do it. She was like,
Of course.
"It's really tough. It's really tough."
She's like, there's like doctors and like medical
really
and
hard.
lawyers. Why do you want to? And you're like, well, stop taking me to shows.
Right. I'm like, you exposed me already. So,
Correct.
but it kind of just snowballed from there. And then I got to high school and it wasn't a cool thing to do. So I just did track and field because I was like, I want to be, I want to be cool. And so it wasn't until my senior year of high school that it kind of came back into my life. It was like a full circle moment. And so I auditioned for this show. I wound up booking it. And then I got nominated for like the Tuts Award, like the Tommy Tune Awards in Houston, Texas. Yeah. I knew nothing. So a lot of the girls that I was nominated with had been doing this forever. The Wiz. I was Dorothy. I was Dorothy in The Wiz.
Oh,
and it was a moment.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim. But it was a moment. It was a moment in time. And so it just kind of snowballed from there because I wasn't sure what I wanted to major in college. And my mom was like, maybe you should audition for the theater program. I went to Abilene Christian University and I was thinking about doing business, majoring in business.
And your mom was like, yes, business.
She was like, yes, go that route. And so was my dad, because he's an accountant. So he was like, please go that route.
Please, come on. Okay.
But I auditioned and got in, and the rest literally is history. I knew nothing. Everyone came in with like community theater credits. People had resumes, freshman year of college, and I'm like, what? Huh? What is this? What's a monologue?
You're like, what's a headshot?
I was that new. What's a headshot? I was that green. But it kind of, my school was like the foundation of my career, and I learned everything that I know from that university. And so that's kind of how I got going. And then I did like cruise ships when I graduated from school to get money and to travel into the world.
When you did cruise ships, had you already moved to New York City, or you're like stationed, you auditioned there and then you book? Okay.
Yeah, I auditioned. So I had a job coming out of university. And so, yeah, it was just kind of a way to get money to move to New York City because, New York is very expensive, as we all know. Yep. And so it was just kind of one of those things. So I had a goal in mind. So I knew I didn't want to stay doing cruise ships, but it was a great way to travel and it was a great way to like perform,
Yeah, that was my first job out of college was Norwegian Cruise Lines.
Same, Norwegian.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, I would ask what ship, but it wasn't the same ship because we put ours out of commission. We were the last cast ever, and they were like, "This awful old ship, you guys put it to the ground."
It might have been the same ship though, because mine was like a little old ship.
Really?
Old ship. It was really old.
We were the Norwegian Sea.
Oh, I was the Majesty.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, but yeah, you know what I mean.
So, everyone watching's like, we don't
exactly. But look at us now. Look at
Correct.
Us now, Tim.
Killing it. Okay, so then you do that, and then you move to New York City.
Yes, I moved to New York City. And you know what? Dan was the first person I auditioned for.
Really?
Dan was the first one. It wasn't for Little Shop. It was for another show.
Okay.
And it went so horribly wrong that he was like, you know what? There's something special about you. You know how Dan is. Yeah. Something special about you. It was like a shimmy in the shoulders.
Of course.
And it was like, if I have another show, come in and audition. And I was like, okay. I had embarrassed myself that bad. Like I couldn't find my note, my pitch to start the song. It was like really, really bad. And he was like, I don't know. Something about your energy. It was like that. And so when I auditioned for Little Shop, that whole moment you had, I was like, I'm not gonna mess this up because I had messed it up so bad the first time. So
and then there you go, and you booked it. And okay, and so then that was, how long ago was that? I have no idea. That was maybe,
oh my gosh,
not a decade.
It was no, maybe 2011, 2012.
Okay, and so then from there you do Little Shop in Florida, non-equity, and then what happens from there?
I auditioned for Dreamgirls while I was at Broward. And
Dreamgirls, the tour,
non-union, the second national. So it was non-union. I flew out to New York, auditioned for that, and that's what I booked that one.
Come on, and that's the tour that started with like Adrienne Warren, Moya Angela at the Apollo.
Yeah.
This is like year 2.
Exactly.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So it was that. And then I wound up doing a Disney ship, I think, randomly, because my agent was like, non-union tours, they're not, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, non-union really helped me because you get exposure and experience that you probably typically wouldn't get being non-union. You know what I mean? Fighting for those union jobs. So it did help me. And then from there, it kind of snowballed. I booked Memphis, the tour, and then it just kind of went.
And you're not like, when you say like, I booked these, you're not like female ensemble 4 to the left.
No, I was the lead.
Dreamgirls, you were who?
I was Dina Jones.
Sure, as you do. And then me too, cool. And then in Memphis, who were you? Felicia. Sure.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. And
heavy vocal loads. I
know. Yeah, just like the gift, to just rest the gift. Okay, so I'm glad to know that the rest of the world also, you walk into an audition and the rest of the world is also like me, and there's like, just give it to her, she wins.
No.
Okay, so then you do that, and then what's your Broadway debut?
Getting the band back together.
It was your Broadway debut.
It was my debut at the Belasco. That's why it will forever be one of my favorite houses, because it was my debut house.
Yeah, it's my French bulldog is named Belasco. I'm insane. There's the apartment above. Everything about it, I'm obsessed with. It's so weird.
And it's haunted. And
it's haunted. All of that. So talk to us. Do you have any specific memories? Did you see any ghosts? Do you have any specific memories of the Belasco? I know it was a short time.
It was super short, as you know, it was super short. But they did like a tour with our cast, like the haunted tour that they typically do, right? Yeah. I wasn't there that day. I somehow missed it. I know, I somehow missed it. But the girls I was in the dressing room with, claimed that they saw the lady in the blue dress.
Sure, yeah, lady in blue.
They said that the lady in blue. And I was like, I don't believe it. But things would happen all the time off stage. Things would fall down. It would be random noises. And we're like, that is so weird. And our stage managers were always on top of it. So it was just random. I don't know. Things happened in that theater that I'd never experienced in my career. So I was like, I believe this.
And you're not alone. A lot of, I collect these stories. So a lot of people, Dracula specifically, there was a lot of weird stuff that happened on opening night. You'd hear voices in walls and things. Yep. And so that's not out of the ordinary. So did you ever go up to the apartment?
Absolutely not.
Correct. Not. You're like that. I was like, no. That on purpose.
Not for me.
I've been up twice, and it is it's every creepy like place you ever wanted. Yeah.
No, not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Okay, so how did you get involved with getting the band back together? You just went to an audition, or what?
I almost hate to tell you the story because of the way I've told the other stories. So, I was doing Bodyguard. I was doing the Bodyguard.
That's right.
Yeah, I was doing that tour
with Deborah Cox. You were like the other role.
I was the sister, yeah. So I would cover her on the weekends, and I would do my role. So I was playing 2 leads at the same time.
Oh gosh, I didn't know you covered her. Okay.
Vocally taxing. But anyway, so I was in that show. They asked me to come in and audition for it, just a normal audition. So I got approved to leave the tour for like a day or two to audition for that. Not because I was so tired and already stressed about my own project that I just wasn't concerned about getting the band back together. Like I was prepared, always prepared. But I wasn't overwhelmed by it. Because, typically you're going in, the show might have life. It's a workshop. They're trying to bring it to Broadway. All those things that can play into your mind. But I was actually pretty calm because I was like, I'm so tired from this. This will be a nice break to focus on another project. So I went in, I sang, I did my thing. They called me back the next day. I went in, I sang for producers and, did the whole thing. And I'm good on not looking people up because I don't want to be intimidated about who's in the room because I don't care who's in the room. I kind of want to do what I have to do and leave.
Yeah, and it's a good mental. That's a good way to approach it because otherwise,
because you can be overwhelmed.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god.
My director was a Tony winner, so I was like, I don't want to know. Yeah. So I just did my thing, and then I went back to tour. And Tim, they called and were like, we really like her. Can she come back in? They wanted me to dance. And my agent was like, she can't leave, she's whatever, working. So I booked it. And I was so surprised because everyone that I did the show with had auditioned 7-8 times. I was like, I couldn't leave to go back. I had to send them video footage of me dancing in my current show. It was like such a random thing. And then I got approval again to go and do the workshop. And then I got approval again. We had like 2 or 3 different workshops and readings. And then I got the call maybe a month before my tour was ending. It was like, my agent was like, hey, do you want to go to Broadway this, fall? And I was like, what?
And you're like, what a perfect end to tour. You're
and I was like, bye, guys.
See ya.
Yeah.
And so did you have to leave the tour early or?
I did, a week early.
Okay. So not too crazy.
Not too crazy. So I got all my checks. And I was like, bye.
See ya. Oh my God. Forward my mail to the Belasco. See you there. Crazy. You there. Okay. So you had been involved with some of the earlier incarnations of it.
Yes.
And so then, what happens from there? How long did it run? I can't remember. 30 seconds.
It was like a blink and we were over.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 weeks, if that. I think
including previews.
Including previews.
But
see, that's the stuff they don't tell you about, Tim. They don't tell you about that. Like, you hear about shows closing early, but you just hope and pray that you can kind of get the momentum.
Yeah.
And man, it was tough. But honestly, it was the best experience. It really was a good experience.
And did anyone, Tom was following, we love Tom LaCourte. He says, this is what he says. He says, I saw Getting the Band Back Together on Brazil Day, complete with a very loud concert going on right outside the theater. And Tom says, Tom just followed up. Tom is like racing through his playbills. This is what he found. Oh my God, I saw Jasmin in The Bodyguard on tour. He just checked his playbill. Me and my friends left talking about how awesome she was. Okay, it's good to know I'm not alone. I didn't think I was alone, but it's nice to know that that's all. You never know. So before we talk about Book of Mormon and before we talk more about all that, someone wrote in a question, and I feel like it's someone who knows you.
Probably
because of the question. The question is, why are you so gorgeous? And that voice. And this person who wrote that is Courtney.
I love her.
Daniels,
she's my good girlfriend.
Yeah.
I love her. She is brilliant.
It's maybe a rhetorical question. So let's do a non-rhetorical question. Tina Kravitz says, where are you quarantining?
I am currently in Houston, Texas, in my childhood bedroom right now. But I was in New York for a long period of time, but I just kind of wanted to make sure the numbers went down, the COVID numbers went down before I came to Houston. But I've been here for about 6 weeks now.
And so I did the opposite. The moment I saw this happening, I shut down our business. It was like, bye, you guys. Let me know how it goes. I went to Michigan, and then I came back right as it was flattening.
Smart.
Well,
so smart.
I don't know, something.
Yeah.
So, And so what was it like to be here during like the 7 weeks of insanity when I guess what Houston or what all these places are quote unquote experiencing now,
right?
Not air quotes like it's fake. I just mean
I know what you mean.
Different scenario than New York City. Where we live on top of each other. So what was it like to be here during all of that?
Oh my gosh. To be honest, the first day on March 12th when they were like, you guys, we're shutting down the theater right now. I was so happy to not go to work. We were, you know what I mean? If you don't have to go to work, you're like,
snow day. Yeah. You're like, school's off. Great.
Then everything hit the fan and it was hard. It was tough because I'm a social butterfly. I have a lot of incredible friends like Courtney. I have a lot of, people in my life, and I'm used to being out and about. I'm used to working, all day. I audition all day and go to work at night. I do that whole thing like most actors do. Yeah. And so it was really tough the first 2 weeks because I was concerned. We didn't know what it was. You know what I mean, Tim? Yeah. Like we just don't know what it is.
Yeah, they were like, an usher has it. And you were like,
right.
Great.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You're like, what does that mean? And then you started hearing about the numbers rising and people getting sick. And it was really tough because the way New York is, how we are stacked on top of each other. But I relaxed into it. Once I set a schedule for myself in terms of like maybe get up, work out, sit on the rooftop, get some air, like little things. I found joy in that, but it was so tough. I'm not gonna lie.
And now that it's followed you to Houston and now Texas is a mess,
right?
Is it different there because it's so spread out and there's cars and things? Is it different?
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot easier. And also, like, I live in an apartment and my parents have a home. So there's the backyard, there's other things to do.
Right.
And then you can also get in your car versus like probably hopping on the train, which I did not do at all. If I couldn't find it in my local area in Queens, I just didn't travel out. But yeah, like it's a little bit easier, but still we're taking it very seriously and we're still staying in the house as much as possible. You know what I mean?
And before, so what we didn't touch on before this broke down or this all happened, you were at Book of Mormon.
Yes.
And so tell me how did that come about?
I hate talking about my audition stories because they seem like everything's so easy, but it's not at all. It's so
for
not.
Like for every Dina Jones, there's like 40,
I didn't book so many things.
Right.
I booked so many things.
That's the fun about these interviews. Everyone walks away and they're like, I'm so talented. I booked everything. And you're like, I know, we didn't talk about anything that went wrong.
Right, of course. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for specifying that.
Everyone's like, oh my God, you're the most successful person. I was like, well, I haven't told you anything bad yet. Like, you just like, your life is great. I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah, it has its moments.
Like, it's all right.
Yeah. Okay. So Book of Mormon. So tell us this, how does it go down? Okay.
So for transparency, my show closed, getting the band closed, and that was really, really hard because obviously being my first Broadway show, you know, you go through the whole thing of, will I book anything again? Will it be Broadway? Was it all a fluke? You know, that whole thing. Yeah. Once we got past that, I had 8 months of not working. I was auditioning a lot and I was doing other things that I really wanted to do, but I didn't work for 8 months. And so Book of Mormon came just randomly, you know, just normal audition. I went in for it. I was with all these wonderful girls that were really talented, and I thought I did really well because they asked me to stay. I was the only one they asked to stay and sing a little extra. So I did a little bodyguard, trying to throw my little Whitney in there to see if I can, book it. And it went really, really well. Someone else wound up getting it. Totally fine. Let it go. I moved on, and then I got the call randomly, a couple months later, like, hey, can she come in and do, a little snippet of this song? And I'm like, okay, sure. And it was just me and the MD and the casting director, which is a little random. Normally it's it's the team. Yeah. And I was like, okay, sure. I go in and sing the song, and my agent's like, they really like you. And I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't book it, because I know that track is already filled. And then some other things happened, and that person wound up needing to move on to do something else. And I wind up going in like randomly. It was just me. They were only auditioning me, but I didn't know that at the time. So I'm like, okay, going through the whole, like, I might not get it, so don't get your hopes up, right? Whatever. Sure enough, my agent called me like, they want you. I'm like, what? Okay. And I'm still auditioning, obviously, because you just have to do that. And I wound up booking 2 other things. And then Mormon kind of started taking their time with deciding, because it's a whole chain of command. They had to go through a whole number of people to sign off on me. And they were taking too long. So I told my agent, I said, hey, just let them know I booked something else. It's a newer project. I'm going to probably go that route because I don't have time to wait. I built to pay. I have things to do. Yeah. And so as soon as I said, like, I'm going to move forward somewhere else, they were like, no, we want you. Come, please, please. And it's not like they were begging me. Let me not, don't get it confused. Right. But it helped get the ball rolling. So anytime that they're taking too long, you just let them know something else is on the side.
You're like, I'm booked.
a little tip.
Yeah. I love that.
It worked out.
When you're so in demand, let them know that you're so in demand. Okay, so then what do you do in Book of Mormon, and how long were you in that?
Oh my gosh.
You're still in it, of course, but like, how long did you do until the shutdown?
Oh my goodness. So March happened, and I would have made a year in April, which I did. I made a year in April, which is not on stage. Sure. So yeah, so it was a year, and I love Mormon. I love the people there. Like, that's my favorite thing about doing the show is the people, because a lot of the people have been there for so long, in the best way. I mean, they were working for so long. So yeah, it's been great. I really do. I love the people.
And has it talk to us the differences between originating your track in Gettin the Band and Book of Mormon, where you're, it's year what? It's year 10 or something?
Right. It's about to be year 10 when we come back.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So walk us through the difference of, I guess, maybe rehearsal process or any notable differences that stick out. Okay.
So on my resume, I've done a lot of dying and crying and dramatic roles. And then, of course, I get to Broadway and it's all comedy. So I'm like, great. But it's really, really cool because getting the band back together, I have never been in a new work kind of situation. Right. So sometimes you would just throw stuff out or improv something and they would write it in. Okay. So it's good and bad because it's your creative license, but you're also, it's collaborative. So we'll say that. And so it was really cool in that way, but it was also very intimidating because I wasn't necessarily an improv type of actor.
Right.
I'm better at it now, but like at the time it was so intimidating because the lead guys were so incredible and they had been with the show for years working on it and developed those characters and knew them really well.
Right.
But it was so cool to learn new songs or say, can I change this or can we change that? And everything was kind of formatted for you. Like whatever fit best in your voice, like that is so cool. Because most of the shows, obviously, if they're already done, they're already set. So you just have to kind of figure out.
You're fitting like the mold of like someone's weird. Yeah, that I did Altar Boys, and the original Abraham has a weird high falsetto, and so half the show you're like woo, and you're like, why
sing, Tim, sing,
and they're like, oh, David Josephsberg can just sing really high, and you're like, I know, but why did he ruin it for all of us?
But it's work for other people. Yeah, it's work.
Yeah.
So it was really cool like that because most of the things were set up for you to succeed because it was written around you and for you. So that was the best thing about doing a new show and also being on an original cast album. Who doesn't want to do that? Like
it's
what?
Like in the like dreams coming true.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
Jack, Book of Mormon,
Jack.
And so so Mormon, you're like fitting track number 4 or whatever.
Yeah, you're fitting in track number 4, which is totally fine because it's a running machine. So you just kind of figure out how to fit in. And honestly, I'd never replaced. I'd always been in the cast.
Yeah.
So that was its own other kind of challenge because you don't want to throw off other people that have been doing this. You know what I mean? Yet you still want to infuse yourself into it. So it was really kind of cool to rehearse by myself. I'd never done that. So I had to rehearse by myself and get everything going and then have a put in. And, obviously I've done put-ins over the years, but never for me like that. So it was really cool. I actually really liked it. And then once I got into the flow and you kind of feed off the other actors and it just kind of worked out. But because it's not as big of a role as what I've done before, so it wasn't as daunting, if I'm honest, because I've done harder things in this.
Yeah,
but
especially
it was
all
just
the
actually
vocal stuff.
Right. It's very sensible. It's very sensible, but not easy. We still work.
Sure.
But I love it. I love the fact that it's not all on my throat. I love the fact that I can just kind of have it's a comedy. It's light. I can laugh throughout work.
Yeah.
And not worry about dying at the end. So it's kind of great. I'm loving it.
And then what do you, okay, so then let's, on the heels of this, like a little deeper in the Book of Mormon world, I think Mason Griffin was the one who called out and said Book of Mormon is racist, is what he says.
Yeah.
And his whole, like, he had all of these thoughts, Black Lives Matter. He was the first one, I feel like, in our industry to just be like, I'm going to, like, say what I feel, here we go. So do you feel being a part of it, having been outside of it for 9 years and now being in it for 1 year, what are your thoughts about all of that and this whole, and Black Lives Matter and all of this? Have you had experiences? Do you not want to talk about this at all?
I'm totally fine with talking about it. I love talking about this type of stuff because it's more serious than the fluff of just performing. Not that performing is not serious, it is, but the real life of the meat of things.
Right.
I saw that video. What's funny is I saw the video and I'm like, this, yes. Everything he says. And then at the end, he says Mormon is racist. And it's a gag, right?
Right.
You're like, where did this come from? Everything he said up to that point, it was like, okay, cool, absolutely. And then it just with no context.
Right. And then he was like, bye.
Bye. Yeah. Which made me feel like, what am I missing here? And if you haven't seen Mormon, it's debatable, right? Not in terms of racism for me, but in terms of like that dialogue of how these characters can be portrayed or how it can initially come off, because we want you to watch the show through your own lens and learn throughout the show because it's satirical, right?
Yes.
And so I think the climate of today doesn't necessarily help Mormon in that aspect. Because when Mormon came out, it was a different time. Yeah. Now we're dealing with seeing these videos of Black people dying, right? And so the pressure of that and the societal things that are happening with Black Lives Matter and police brutality, of course, through that lens, you can take bits and pieces of Mormon and say, oh my goodness, this is this is that, this is that.
Sure.
But I've had numerous conversations with people in the cast, and these are not passive Black people. These are very opinionated, informed, knowledgeable people as well as I am. Yeah. So it's tough to ever be included in that of like, oh, this is anti-Black, because that's what it is. That's how it sounds. If someone says something is racist and then you're a part of it and you're Black. And so for me, knowing the show and also knowing my contribution to the show and what the show is about, if you're watching it and really digesting it correctly, it is not that. That is not what the Book of Mormon is about. And I've had these conversations. We've had these conversations with the Tony winners. We've had these conversations with the original cast.
Yeah.
And so if you've seen the show, and I don't want to ruin it for people because there are some people that haven't seen it, you know, but you have to see it for yourself and draw that conclusion. But I would never take a snippet of a video of one person saying something and running with that, because I don't know Griffin Matthew, but I respect his work with Witness Uganda. I respect him as an artist.
I called him Mason Griffin.
Yeah.
Someone else. Sorry, Mason Griffin. That's
Griffin
not
Matthew.
you. Griffin Matthew, thank you.
But I don't know him, but I definitely respect his perspective on things. But I don't know. I know that he was a part of the originals, that he was a part of the development of Mormon, and probably decided not to go forward with it. I don't know the history of what he decided to do with his decision with the show, but I know that he was a part of the show. I don't know what his experience was, so I can't. I'm not here to tell someone that what they're saying is incorrect. But what I can say is, in terms of the show itself, that is not the show.
Yeah, I think anytime you're dealing with satire, I think it's, as long as it's done smartly and it's done with care,
and it makes you think, and it turns that mirror on you to think, this is how people view Africans. That is not what Africa is. You know what I mean? It's stereotypes that people are playing on. So I think you have to come in with your own. Yeah, you have to see it for yourself and not.
You have to. I think the best thing about satire is that you find yourself laughing, and then you stop laughing.
That's absurdity
and you're like, oh God, maybe that's actually. I think that's true. Right. Oh God, have I done? You know, and it really, like you said, it turns the lens. Slave play, of course, is like, you know, at the forefront of all of this because of what it was.
I saw that.
But it was crazy. But I remember my friend Greg's a producer, and I remember him talking about, you know, the evolution of it, and these opening scenes are almost so absurd that you're laughing, and then they pull the rug out,
and it's uncomfortable,
and then you're uncomfortable, and you're like, oh God! But it's the same. I mean, it's different, but it's the same. It's a way in. To open your eyes. It's okay. I was interested in someone's perspective from the inside of like doing it 8 times a week of what you're feeling. So that's interesting.
And I have to say this, Tim, like I would never be a part of something that would oppress any people, especially my people. I just couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, and not for a check. So if I really felt that way, and I know that I can speak for any Black person that probably has come through Book of Mormon, that is not the goal. And everyone's not just fighting to get a check. Right. But I want to be a part of something that has integrity and is saying something. And whether that resonates with Book of Mormon or resonates with the person seeing Book of Mormon, that's okay. Not every show is going to resonate with people. It's okay. Like we all have things that we love. But I think that was a stretch. I do think that was a little bit of a stretch. But I don't know what his history is, like I said.
Right. I love that. Okay, so we have some more questions. What are questions? What were you doing before shutdown? Tina says, we know that. We were doing Book of Mormon. There was one other that I was going to ask you from someone here. Tina Kravitz says, once Broadway opens up again, what show and or role would you like to do when you, let's say whenever, if and when you leave Book of Mormon? Do you have like a dream role? Is it a yet to be written situation?
I used to think that I had a dream role, but I think it's yet to be written. When you have done original work, you get how powerful that is to put your stamp on something and it be like yours. So that's kind of more the direction I would like my career to move. And that's why I love Adrienne Warren and what she's doing, because she's put such a stamp on Tina that I'm like, yes, ma'am.
She, if you've known her, I've had the luxury of knowing her a little bit socially the last couple of years, and you just were kind of like Shuffle Along was the first like, you're gonna be, this is gonna be crazy when the right role and the right thing happens, and then Tina comes along, and then the worst thing is like COVID comes along and is like, hi, you were gonna win the Tony Award, but God. And you're like, they better give her one, just like,
you better give that woman her flowers,
something, give her something. Caitlin Elizabeth, who's a person we love, she says she's a teacher, so it's so inspiring to hear that a fellow teacher was your first advocate. I hope you shared your success with her. She would love to hear. So we're going to turn that into a question. Have you shared that with him?
Absolutely. I have had 2 teachers that have absolutely shaped my life in terms of like when I was really young, like middle school and high school, that developmental years, that absolutely helped me move in this direction. And then my students, not my students, but my teachers, once I got to university, absolutely helped me stay there, writing recommendation letters for scholarships and all kinds of things. So I cannot advocate enough for teachers. My mother's a theater teacher now, so teachers literally can change your life. I 100% believe that. I know that. I'm an example
Theater
of it.
teacher in
Yeah.
high school, middle school?
High school.
Okay, so
Yeah, she's
then
a high school theater teacher.
what are her thoughts of, like, let's stay relevant. What are her thoughts about, like, Trump says everyone's going back to school, I don't care. Does she have very real thoughts about that? And how does one do, like, production of Annie at your high school with COVID?
You know what? I don't want to speak for her necessarily, but I know that she's enjoying the remote learning. She doesn't mind teaching from home. I'll say that.
Great.
I mean, also she wants her students to be safe, and she also wants to be safe. So I think that whatever's going to best serve the students and best serve their health, obviously that's the direction she's going in. But I don't want to speak for her in terms of like Trump and political. We talk about things, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
All of it. Yeah. It's, I can't imagine. I don't know. I can't imagine a world where anyone is going to put a whole bunch of people in a classroom together and it's going to end well. But it's like, I also don't know anything. I sit in an empty apartment with a French bulldog all day. It's like, I have no, it's like, what do I know? I talk about theater. You're like, I only
same. I'm like, what do I know?
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep myself
I'm not
together.
the expert, but I do have lots of opinions.
Right.
Tina Kravitz says, where did you attend college? I must have missed it. You missed it, Tina.
Abilene.
Yeah,
Abilene Christian
Texas,
University, right? West Texas. Yeah, Abilene Christian University.
I love that. I think that's all of our questions. Corey West says hi. Do you know Corey West? He's in the crowd. He's one of my tour guides.
Yes, hi.
Corey West is a star. And then we have one more last question from previous. I think it's someone who knows you.
Of course.
I think their screen name is Blend in Chat. I think it's Danielle, maybe.
My best friend.
She says, how do you handle being a talent-crushing boss?
First of all, I have the best girlfriends. If you don't have girlfriends like this hyping you all the time,
you better get out of here. How are you even quarantining if you don't have people like that? How are you?
I'm the best girlfriend.
How does one be a talent-crushing boss? Do you? When was the first moment that you were like, "Oh, I think I'm good at this"? Did you have a moment of like, "I think I might be able to do this, and people are going to pay me money to do this"?
College.
Okay.
College. My school wound up doing Aida, and I auditioned, and I was Aida.
Yeah.
And I remember that final moment of like the first show. It was a homecoming musical, but I remember the first show and like the audience like jumping up, and I was like, I could do this. You know what I mean? Because in college, you're like, I'm still learning. I'm not, you're not great. Some people are. I would say I wasn't great.
I was not.
I wasn't great, and I was learning so much. But like that was the moment, I think it was my junior year. And I was just like, I could do this. It was so hard. I remember like it was so hard. Just when a show is completely on your shoulders, all the songs, all the lines, it is intimidating. It's hard work. And so, and it's not just being on stage, it's everything that you do outside of that. Like your life, it's consuming on your life. Like I couldn't talk, and I was in school. So, and I was a student, I wasn't getting paid. So it was so consuming, but I took it that seriously that I knew I could do this. And that literally helped me.
That's crazy. Okay, so that's like your first like big sing where you're like that's a huge sing. So then having done so many shows like that, have you developed a routine that like gets you through when you got to sing all that Felicia stuff, that Dreamgirls stuff? I mean, even in Gettin the Band, like that end of the show where we had an end of who came out and just like started hooting and hollering, and I was like,
the ladies.
I was like, where have they been?
Everyone's sitting there like, wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
Wait to the end to
You're
show
like,
the ladies.
Oh, okay, that was pretty funny. And then they were like, we're not done.
We're gonna scream a little bit. That's so funny.
So do you have regiments? Do you have like, are you cords of steel? Are you?
I'm disciplined. I'm extremely disciplined. I will always go to my ENT, Dr. Salika, and always get scoped before a show starts, to make sure I'm monitoring myself, because you can do some real damage in rehearsals. Rehearsals is where it gets real tricky because you're trying stuff, you're figuring out things.
You're doing it over.
And so you're doing it over and over. Tim, like it's so rigorous, and people don't know that part. They only see like the glamorous part at the end and everyone's clapping, but it's so rigorous. that you have to be diligent about your instrument because you carry it around, you use it daily. It's not like, you know, something I can put in a case and go about my day. Like, I'm carrying it around. So I'm so diligent. Like, my friends do not see me when I'm working in it. Like, even bodyguard, that was like 2 years. I was never around. People are like, where are you? I'm in the hotel, quiet, sleep, like, because I'm doing 2 really heavy roles. And so that's the life. You know what I mean? Like, that's the work. That's the real work. You know, everyone wants like the big numbers on the check and everything, but like, it is tough. What Adrienne Warren is doing, like, I have to reference her because this is not easy. Like, it looks cute, but you hurt yourself, you could fall down, break your ankle, you know, you still have to do it. Like, I think she even strained or did something to her ankle and she was still going.
Yeah,
like,
you just muscle through it. It's especially now with social media and things, it's like you call out and people are like, I bought tickets.
And they're upset with you.
You're like, ma'am, I don't know you. I'm so
you're
sorry.
Like, ma'am, I didn't want to call out.
Right, I want to do it. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to clean my apartment.
Yeah, so sleep is a big one. Sleep and letting the body kind of heal itself is my biggest thing. Always sleep. If you're sleeping, you're not talking. So
yeah. Okay, one last question, and then we're gonna let you go do Saturday night things. Tom says, the second part of this, Tom, this is rude. We don't ever put people on the spot, Tom. What is your go-to audition song? You do not have to give a sample. People on tour are like, can you do a little song? I'm like, I've just talked for an hour and 45 minutes. It's dusty. I'm not going to be like, there's a hero. Like, you don't want to hear that.
Tim, thank you so much for advocating for me. You understand.
So, Tom, I love you, but it's rude. No, it's not. We still love
and
you,
go to YouTube, Tom. I'm all throughout YouTube. You can always trust me. You'll get tired of me by the end of that. But
okay, so the first half, go to audition songs.
Stormy Weather. That's my booking song.
Really?
I booked most things. Even when they say, can I get an up tempo? I'll just pick it up a little bit. I'll just slow it down. Like, that is my go-to song.
You're like, you have something legit. You were like, Stormy
Weather. Yes. I will do all of that because it works. It works for me. So that's my go-to song. Is there another one? I have a Patti LaBelle song in there. That is like I can't remember off the top. I haven't looked at my book in so long. I'm so sorry. Because now,
and
I don't.
And you're going in for stuff, and they're like,
yeah, it's really specific. So they give me a packet already, and so I just you have like 20 songs to learn from the packet. You're not looking at your book if they don't ask for the book. So.
Yeah, you're like, I'm off book on all 20. And they're like, we'll just actually do 16 bars of the 4th song. And you're like,
that has happened to me. That has happened to me multiple times. Actually, can you go to the song way in the back that you probably have spent the least amount of time
right.
with? And so I've been there. I've done it all.
Yep.
So
you're a joy. Tell everyone in the world social media if they should follow you, if you do Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or all the things that.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I don't.
I'm such an old lady. I don't know how to work on TikTok. I love to watch them, but to work a video is not me.
No.
But Instagram, that's where you will find me, Jasmin C. Richardson. So I am all throughout that all day. Every day. So Instagram is the best way. I have my Twitter, but I rarely use it. So you can look me up if you want to. And it's a little spicy. It's a jazzy, sweet thing.
Really? Okay, sure.
Spicy. Just keeping it fun and spicy. But on Instagram, it's just my name.
Okay, so, Jasmin C. Richardson. Go and follow her. She's a star. You've been awesome. Thank you for making our Saturday night in quarantine so wonderful. We'll say bye to you. We'll follow your career. We'll go and see you in Book of Mormon.
Please do.
And we send our love to Houston. Good luck with theater teaching in the fall to Mom. And thank you for spending your night with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. So you see what I mean? She's a star. She's like, she's radiant. And, and even she's messing around with Stormy Weather, but it's incredible. She really is. I don't say that lightly. She really is someone that you should follow, and you'll see her name in lights. And when she says someone's going to write a role for her, she's not wrong. That will probably happen. You guys have been awesome. Thanks for sticking it out with me for these 45 minutes of your Saturday night. It's hot and sweaty here in New York City, so I hope it's a little cooler wherever you are in your life. As always, you can follow us if you want some merch. We have some new merchandise stuff coming out very soon. So follow us on Instagram and Facebook for that. Stuff that I've been working so hard at for the last couple of weeks that I really think you're going to love. And if you don't love it, then it'll be fine. I'll create more stuff that I'm sure you'll love at some point. If you want to follow us, if you don't follow us on Instagram, at Broadway Up Close is where you can follow us. All the info on our tours, BroadwayUpClose.com, has everything you ever need to know about me, my life, my French Bulldog, and Broadway Up Close. Thank you for spending your Saturday night with me. As always, we're here every Saturday night for the next now 37 weeks left of our Broadway Up Close virtual journey. Next week, we have another superstar who actually is also from Texas, who, that's all I'll tell you. She has worked at our next theater, which was built in 1910. That's the only hint I'm going to give you until Monday when we see which is our next theater. And as always, like I say, now we're officially one day closer to Broadway. I love you all. I hope you're having a great, wonderful finish to your week. And I will see you again next Saturday. Bye, guys.